welcome to Radical Authentic Fitness Conversation. Gina,
Thank
I
you.
am so happy to have you here today. Welcome for those of you who are watching. This is one of my first um, kind of online best friends that I made. Gina Sergio Lotus. We have colleagues in common, we have education in common, and we also have passionate dialogue about fitness and wellness and health. And the thing I love the most that we have in common is kind of our rantings about the wildness that happens, particularly in the online world, because there's, I think, so many ways we can hide behind. Uh, if you guys don't follow Gina, you need to go follow her now. She is at Women's Health Series, and she has an entire um, character built around big hats, big glasses, and really bad advice. And she does that to sort of just point a very strong spotlight at bad advice. So thank you for being here.
I am excited to be here. This is going to be fun. We're going to have a good time.
This is going to be really fun. And I do expect there to be some rants, but that's not necessarily why we're here. I asked Gina to have this conversation with me because I know she lives a radically, authentically fit life. Gina has a full life, like I said, a complete career. You're married, you have a house, you have pets, you have 4 kids, which I know seems radical to a lot of people, even those of us who have kids of our own, but just tipping that scale over when you're outnumbered seems like a radical thing. And you have been able to integrate true a true path for you through fitness. Tell us a little bit about how you came to this place. Starting with, wherever in your journey you want, but what has got you here?
So I feel like, as always, things kind of come full circle. Like where I am now, I feel like I've done a lot of various things to kind of come around the bend. There have been some hiccups along the way, but I'm really comfy where I am right now with whatever I like to do. But man, it took a lot of effort to get back into that spot where it's like, this is what I like to be doing for me. This is me. And if you weren't checking, I'd be doing this. And if you never looked at me, I'd be doing this. And if no one ever asked, I'd still be here doing this because this is what I like to do. So I would say, like, growing up, like, my family has always been super athletic, always involved in 1,000 things. My dad was always training for marathons. My mom was at her little exercise classes. My grandfather on my dad's side was a PE teacher and then had his PhD and was a principal and was constantly putting in programs. So like, the idea of sitting around was just like, not that it wasn't an option. It was just like, but like, why? Why are you sitting there? Why did you not go do something?
Yeah.
So, and also like we kind of like run a little hot, like it was a little intense in my house. So we laugh now. I have 3 siblings that we always laugh that if we like get together, if we have like a family thing, like everyone makes time to like go for a run or do something first. And then if someone's kind of cranky, we're like, were you going to go for a run or something? Like, well, watch your kids, like go do something so you can come back and like have fun. Like, for the love of God, we all know how we work. Go do a thing. And either we'll all do it together and like we'll all run together or something because they live far apart. So if we're actually all together, that's cool. But we do overlap and then we all laugh because it's like, if someone's like, well, this happened and then work called and my kids got up and I never made it to the gym or I never went for that hike or that run, it's like they get a full audience of us like, ooh, that's a rough day.
Yeah, that's not going to be good. I love it that it's like, it's built into your literal family DNA, like I feel like if we followed the Sergio line, we would, see like the original marathon runners.
Well, I mean, we're not putting up any like time windows or speediness or anything. We're better if we've worked out and had snacks. Like that's,
I like it.
And so really anytime someone's grouchy, we're like, did you eat something? Oh, you did. Did you work out? No, well, fix it. Because it's one of those 2 things. if it's outside of those two things, well, it must be major, because that's usually what's going to knock somebody off kilter. But then, I played sports when I was younger, definitely. And I tell my kids this all the time. Some of it I loved, that we had stuff that was just seasonal. Like you played volleyball once per year. When that ended, you had basketball. When that ended, you had soccer. Like you really didn't have very many options for year-round things. And I'm sure there were a few out there somewhere, but they weren't common. They weren't easily accessible. And so most of us we played sports all year, but they were in rotation, what you did.
Yeah.
And others. I would have loved to have had like a club sport to the intensity my kids do, because I would have loved it. Personally, I would have loved that. I definitely, they're like, one of my kids the other day said, was it easier in the 1980s? And I was like, yeah, I mean, in some ways, yes. I'm like, but also I remember being bored, which for better or for worse, like sometimes after school, there was nothing to do. And I like to have stuff to do. So that wasn't awesome for me. On the other hand, obviously we could talk about social media and how it was probably better in other ways, but finally, I remember thinking like, finally, when I got to like 7th and 8th grade and then high school, you had options to be in a sport all the time, which definitely made me happier. My life is more organized that way. My homework gets done at a better pace. Now as an adult, I get work better done. Like I need to have a workout in there somewhere. I need my day to be a little bit built around a structure. I'm a creature of habit to a large extent. Somewhere it has to fit, and then I feel better. And I ran that way until I got to college. And of course, college was like, it just threw everything out the window. Like I signed up freshman year for all 8 a.m. classes because I'm an early riser, except that the college clock doesn't work the same. So we were coming in at 4, and then man, that 8 o'clock class is right around the bend. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, that's going to take a toll real quick.
Yeah, let's revamp this idea. This does not work here. 8 a.m. here is not the same 8 a.m. where I just came from. And it knocked me off base. I would say it's like for a solid 2 years, like, sure, I had a great time. Yes, I was having a ball and I was doing all kinds of crazy stuff, but I still didn't like, I definitely lost my sense of self. And then one of the summers I had studied abroad. When I came back, I had to make a few courses up. So I did a summer school, in which case there was a really small group of people that stay for the summer. It was the pace of college. Yeah. There's not as much going on. And I really loved it. I took this physics class that I did well in, because that's all we did, right? It was like, you go for physics for 2 hours, and then you have homework, then physics lab. And then because it's summer school and it's crammed in, and it was just, just talked about physics all day, and we rolled bowling balls around and measured them and whatever. And even the friends I met that summer were in my physics class. So it was like this very focused thing. And a few of the girls that were in my class, they lived in the same house as I did for the summer. One was on the volleyball team for the college, one was on the basketball team. They were probably twice my height easily, right? Because I'm 5'3", and we walked to school and it looked ridiculous. But the one day they were like, oh, like every time that we would finish a class, and then they would have their team workouts, and then we'd meet for study groups. So like my schedule started to match theirs. So then I ended up using it to like go for a run or go to the rec center, which was newly done when I was a freshman in 1994. Everything was brand new, and it had a name, unnamed. The names didn't go with this. It had the girls' floor. There was no name on it, but we just referred to it that way. And it was the Stairmasters and
oh dear,
like steppy things.
Yep.
Wasn't a Stairmaster. You know what I mean? Stair stepper.
I do.
Oh, hell on earth, boring. And a few
treadmills.
What's that?
So boring.
And not even ellipticals, because ellipticals probably weren't made yet. But
yeah, they weren't.
Oh, and then the seated recumbent bike, because girls would.
Yes, that's what I did.
And they would recumbent bike as they read their romance novels. And so that was option A. And then there was free weights downstairs. Well, you couldn't go downstairs because you would just be hanging out with the bros, and that'd be weird. So you just did upstairs, or for the love of God, step class. And if I never do a flying helicopter over a step again, it'll be a good day. And so I was like, but you would just go, and it was just like, if you weren't comfortable in that room, you wouldn't go. So you would just do repetitive things, because at least you knew where the room was, you knew who the instructor was, you weren't going to look like a fool. And unfortunately, that guided a lot of my choices. And so then one day they were like, why do you keep going to the rec center and we're going the other direction to like the team weight room? Like, just join us. And I was like, I am not on a team. And they're like, yeah, but so what? It's just a weight room and you're with us. So just come with us. And so I was like, okay, well, that would save time. Like we're all wasting time showering and coming back from different corners of campus. So I'm like, all right, it's weird, but fine. And we did weights, like free weights and barbells and squats. And I was like, this is really fun. I still love to go for a run, but like, this is really fun. We're
Yeah.
like our conversations from the morning continued from class, blah, 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 blah. And then we're doing the weights and rotating
Yeah.
in. And I was like, that was way more fun than that stupid steppy thing or I mean,
Yeah.
for the love of God, this was fun. Um,
Okay, I want to pause here because you
yeah,
said something that I think is really, you said a couple of things that I think are really important about fitness that a lot of people aren't connecting because they're doing fitness that is like a diet or a specific program. You said that you lost your sense of self, and that was when your routine got thrown off. And then you also were talking about things that are fun. And I have a question about fun and things being hard. I have a sense for you that things being hard is interesting or thoughtful, but I'm wondering if you can kind of connect those things, your sense of self, the boringness, and also the friends that you were with. And is that what brought you back to your sense of self, or was it something else? And what is that sense of self?
well, you think before I went to college, all of my things were team sports. So as much as I loved fitness, I wasn't doing independent fitness. It was guided and written for me.
It was
You
a
know,
sport.
show
Yeah.
up and go run over there and then come back. I mean, and there was a lot of stuff that coaches made us do that I detested, but I do adore being on a team and I love teammates and I love a sport and I just love being in a group type thing together. That's just me anyhow. Um, so just sort of like, fiddling around all by myself is like, I had to relearn, like, I don't like being inactive. Oh shoot, I'm going to have to go make my own self active and find things to do. I did row on the crew team freshman year, which is really funny because now one of the women I work out at my CrossFit gym was on crew with me. And it's just, we're in a different state. We're in a different
Yeah.
place.
Wow.
And anytime we have to row on the erg, it's just, I mean, come on, it's funny all over again, just because the world is small and weird. But I thought it would be awesome because it was a team and everything I ever saw from crew, like I'm from the Midwest, crew is not really big here. It's getting
Yeah.
bigger. It's like an East Coast sport, right?
Yes.
So I see pictures of it and the pictures are people rowing in these like beautiful canyons and now these rivers. And I'm like, that's awesome. I mean, sweet. It turns out I was seat number 5, which I will never forget because it's the middle of the boat and you're not allowed to talk in the boat. And so it's like the worst sport for me. And you're supposed to put your head down, like the form, like for proper form of rowing, you're
Oh,
supposed to.
no.
So the form also dictates, like, that your head is down, sort of looking at your shoes. And so you don't see any of the beautiful places that you're in. Like you drive there, you maybe like row up the river a little bit just to the starting line. So maybe you snoop around and you're like, oh my God, it's amazing. And then you could never look again. And then you go home.
Yeah.
So I was not really loving it because I was like, this is stupid. All I hear all day is seat 5, put your head down, and seat 5, be quiet. And I was like, this is not for me. I love canoeing. I love kayaking. Find me and put me in a boat. I'm happy to join you. But what I loved about soccer, which I played all through high school, was if you were in good enough shape, you could talk the whole time. I mean, if you were running in the air, well, then that's on you to either shut your mouth or condition yourself better. But hey, if you can sprint around and run for 90 minutes and chat, like have on it. So I did that. We talked the whole time. Mild conversations, cheering on, talking, like communicating, just vocalizing in some way. And so to sit in the boat and like be silent and just row as hard as you can for 2 minutes and then take the boat out, put it on the van and drive away. I was like, this is not a good fit for me. And of course, I know other people that adore the sport. They're almost always more introverted than I am. Like each time I'm always like,
right.
I think the sport has a personality that just is not a good fit for me. Not that I would never do it again, but
yeah,
it didn't hit me up as fun. And it was hard. It was hard. But I would say
this is so important to me that people get. And I don't know if it just came natural to you or if someone taught you that it was okay to do things that you love, that make you feel good, because what you have connected in these sports is really a sense of meaning, not necessarily purpose, but meaning and connection. Everything you have done, you have been partly driven by meaning and connection. And generally, it's with other people, which is another part of fitness that I think we get separated from. That it should be connected to what matters to us. Did someone teach you that, or did you just instinctively go,
So,
drive
I mean,
myself towards that?
I know, I know I like chatting with people. I'm a talker. I know that. So I know that like the sports with some chatting is them, yeah, they fit me better. Um, I mean, I tell people now, like, a few questions in the grocery store, like, come find me because I'm already talking to the guy in the coffee aisle, anyways. So, I do just like to do that in general.
Yeah.
I do remember having a conversation with my dad. I was probably in like sixth or seventh grade. And at the time, he was running a lot. He was always a runner. He was training for some longer race and whatever else. And he constantly was lifting weights or running. And he was also a better person after he worked out. So we were like, out you go. Come back later. But I remember, I think I was trying to be a better runner. Like at that point, like you run the mile in school, it's always like the worst thing ever. I tell my kids that now. I'm like, for as much as I like to work out and go for runs, like yesterday, I had a great 6 mile run. I did it on purpose. It was wonderful. I enjoyed every minute of it. If you ask me to come and show up to high school gym class and put my gym uniform on and run the mile, it's going to be the freaking worst.
Right?
Those are different
The
things.
worst.
Right?
Absolutely
so
agree.
like, I hated the mile in gym. I'm like, yeah, okay, so who doesn't? That has nothing to do with some cool, fun, fitnessy thing you could do for yourself now. Like, everybody hates the mile. Scratch, check the box, move on. That is not like if fitness for your life is going to be every day making yourself run the mile that you hated, like that's pretty gruesome. Don't do that. But yeah, I remember having a conversation with him. So I tried to go running with him a few times. He would love for us to go running with him. He was like, it was kind of like when your parents help you with math, but they help you in that way that they know how, and then you end up arguing about it and no one's happy. Same thing, take it running. So same idea. And so we would run a little bit and he'd be like, so you walk a little bit, you run a little bit, doesn't really matter. And I know he was trying to be encouraging and I was like, this is horrible and I hate it. And my pants are uncomfortable. And at the time they didn't have great sports bras. And so I really was not very comfortable. The clothing I wear now, which is another thing, if you want to have a good time working out, you go buy yourself some clothes that you like wearing. You don't want to wear shorts, wear shorts. Guess what? I'm not going to wear
pajamas. If you want to show up in pajamas, let's go. It's not about the outfit.
Your robe, as long as your little tie is not going to get somewhere where it chokes you to death or something. Does it matter? It just doesn't. And so I think fast forward a bunch, if I'd had the sports bras that exist now and the spandex type pants that exist now, I would have enjoyed running sooner than I ended up liking it. Because the gear totally matters, 100%. Bad sports bras, I mean, forget it, go home. You're not going for a run. I had a friend who had a breast reduction surgery at some point, and she was like, well, it was that or give myself a black eye going jogging. So that's what I got. I'm like, yeah.
I get it, man.
Yeah, I know. So I remember in the middle of this like running tutorial that we would try now and again, and usually I hated it. At some point he was like, and I was ignoring him because of course he was wrong, but I did actually hear it. So keep that in mind when you parent. Sometimes they do hear things.
Yeah.
But he was like, it's really hard to find friends to go play with now. He's like, as a kid, we played pickup softball, we played pickup football, we played this, we did this, yes, in school, but also just like on the weekend, like someone grabbed a baseball and a couple of kids and we went and hit the ball around. Either we had a full-on game or we just had batting practice because there were only 3 of us or whatever. He's like, it's easy to find friends. He's like, as an adult, he's like, it's really hard to find friends to go out and like play your sport with. Like, right now you have that, but like that's what everyone's doing, and parents are signing you guys up, and you guys are going to sports camp, and like it's everywhere, and then it goes away, and you have to find something that you like to do. And of course, I was like, well, it's not going to be running, which I do like running. But he was sort of saying that, and then the other thing too he was saying was like, also a lot of times, a lot of sports you do as an adult will be by yourself. Just because you can't find someone that's going to meet up with you at the right time, or even if you do have someone that does a class with you. Oh, their kids got sick, so they were out for a week. So are you going to stay home or are you going to go to the class anyways? Like he said, you
Yeah.
just have to like spending time with yourself also. So make sure you like spending time with yourself because you're going to have to hang out with yourself a lot. So I do think of that, like when people are like, oh, I hate to work out by myself. I'm like, well, make sure you're a nice person to hang out with first because, you know,
Yeah. That might be why you're by yourself all the
that
time.
might be why you don't enjoy being by yourself is because you're there. So maybe work on that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it is, it's, you have to sort of invest that little patience with yourself of it's okay that I'm gonna be alone today. It's okay that I'm here by myself today. It's okay that I'm doing this anyways. It doesn't always have to be that way, but you have to, sometimes it's a party and sometimes it's just me, and
So this brings up um, what I talk to my clients about. Um, the actions that you're taking mentally
mm-hmm.
that are a part of the fitness journey. So, again, to be comparative, so much of the fitness journey that's sold to us is we got to get to here. Here's the goal. If you don't get to here, basically you're a failure. If you don't run the mile in under 13 minutes, you fail. Like that's
abs,
right. That's a good
abs and
first
crop tops.
failure.
Got to have abs and crop tops. Otherwise, don't even call
Yeah,
us alone.
right.
Right.
Abs and so what other actions besides like how you talk to yourself, how you are with yourself, what other like actual actionable items are you taking like just with your mind that are benefiting your fitness journey?
So I think on that same avenue, what's sold to us is either, the diet, which has a beginning and an end. Boot camp, 8-week boot camp, it has 8 weeks and an end. And all of these things that they have this summit of achievement and like you've made it. And so much mess comes out of it. Like I don't think of anything in those ways, but I know that's how they're sold and whatever. For me, if you find me 8 weeks later, I'm still doing what I'm doing because I wasn't there for some pinnacle something. This is truly, this is probably what helps me the most, I guess, is that like, this is who I am. I am a person that enjoys working out. I am a person that enjoys going for a run. I am a person that knows I feel best if I'm moving throughout the week. That is who I am. So I don't have to like, I'm not a Pilates person, or I'm not a ballet dancer, or I'm not a
Yeah.
CrossFitter, as much as like I might use any one of those things on a different day and I would enjoy all of them. Well, I don't know. Ballet, I'm pretty poor at. But I would give it a whirl for a day. I don't think it's going to be my calling, but if you invited me to a ballet class, I would show up and do it. Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
awesome. I love that about you.
Because why not? Right. I mean, we might leave and be like, that was absurd, whatever. There are a few different types of bar classes, not that brand, but different companies around here. And I have tried them and they are not a good fit for me. I do not like them. I am bored. But the people next to me love it. So they should show up tomorrow. I'll go somewhere else. We should all do the thing. But I would say mentally, like, yeah, it is who I am. It's like, it's funny because the CrossFit gym that I'm at now, and I adore them, and there's great people there, and we're on a very this week has all been jokes about being bootylicious, which I can take down another avenue because it does apply, even though it's hysterical. And that is that like sometimes I'll either meet someone who's like, oh, I want to come to the gym or give it a try. Or my husband, Tom, will say, have a patient be like, you need more strength. If you go to this gym, call my wife, she'll meet you there for at least the first day meet and greet type of thing, right? Just so that you have a face that says hello.
Nice.
But what's hysterical is that sometimes those people reach out and maybe they've gone once or twice, whatever. And then they're like, hey, I can't make it Wednesday. I just wanted to let you know I won't be there. And I'm like, okay, I mean, I will. Like my going is not depending on what you're doing. Whether or not I'm going to decide to do a spin class or this, like if we're supposed to meet and like go to breakfast afterwards, like, yes, thank you for letting me know you can't come. But if it's just like, and it tells me a lot about where they are kind of on their path. Like I'm here doing what I'm doing because this is what I do. You are coming because I'm here today. And
Yeah.
safe for you today. If I had called you and said, I can't go, my kids are sick, so I'm going to be home, you would not have gone. Right. You tell me and I'm like, okay, sorry, they're sick. See you Thursday.
So speaking of your journey, has there been a time when Or what was the most challenging time? Like, when was the time where you kind of, I mean, you talked a little bit about starting college and the routine changing and finding your people. Was there another time? I'm thinking specifically about pregnancy, having young children, having babies. But
So
maybe you worked
I
that
would
out.
I would say after I graduated from undergrad, then starting grad school, that was another like again clumsy spot. Didn't know where it was. Turns out that one of my really good friends, that's a high school friend, was also a teammate. She was doing spin at the time, so she was like, "Well, meet me for 5:30 a.m. spin," and I was like, "Oh, okay, like I'll give it a try." Um, that was probably the next, and she's very organized and scheduled as well, and so I was like, "Sweet, like if you know, like if we talked on Tuesday and said let's go Wednesday Friday, like she's gonna be there Wednesday Friday unless she's sick. Like that's it. There's not gonna
Yeah.
be, and
Yeah.
this is like cell phones are still kind of new. Like we have them, but we're not using them super. We're not like texting all over the place. So it wasn't as easy to just be like, oh, sorry, I can't make it today. It was like you would go and they'd be like,
Exactly.
sorry, you didn't see me. Here's what happened, right?
Yep.
And so that hooked me back into like having a solid schedule, which I loved, and it's probably never really been broken again. And I think part of it was like
Wow.
reconnecting just from like the friend level of like we love when we do this. Like now we live in different states, like we don't work out together. We do chat often and talk about our various workouts because it's just who we are, but um it was one of those, like I think it was like really grounding to be like, okay, it's you too, right? Like this makes you feel good. Like this has to fit into your day before you go to work, before you go to school, before you do this. Like you might move it throughout the day, but this is a piece of you. And it was just like really reaffirming or reassuring, I guess, whatever else, just to be like, yeah, there's more of us like this out here where, you know,
Yeah.
we're not talking about obsessiveness and we're not talking about eating disorders and we're not talking about body looks as much as like this is how I can like rock out my day. You're going to have me awesome at work and focused for you and I can do all the things, but I got to take a little piece for myself first. This piece is me. Now I can give to you. um so just to like reconnect with an old friend and just be like, yeah, like I knew this, like that's why we met in the first place, is because like this is who we are these people, which was great.
Yeah.
Pregnancy and postpartum was really frustrating. I will say that because by
Mm.
this point I had already mentally landed on I am best in this capacity. I had done a half marathon. I had done a little of this. Like I know what I like. I know what I don't particularly like. I'm happy to try new things. I just need to do something. Um, and my first it was an easy pregnancy. I did work out throughout. I ran as long as I was comfortable, till I felt like every step I was just going to pee on myself. And I was like, this has lost how fun this is. Because I had friends that were like, oh, I ran to 9 months. And I was like, oh, I'll do that. And I was like, there aren't really enough bathrooms to just
Yeah.
encourage,
To
make that fun.
doable.
Yeah, it lost being. I remember one time coming home being like, it's no longer fun. That was not fun. I like to go and run and like space out and let my bright, and instead I was like,
Yeah.
there's one more bathroom, like 10 more steps. Can I go 10 more steps? Can I
Yes,
go
it
10 more
was
steps?
stressful.
Stressful, lost the fun for sure. But I was, I still belonged to a gym at the time. I had a trainer that I sometimes met up with, so I called him more often and was like, okay, I'm having to trade stuff all over, and I don't really know what to do with myself, but whatever. So I would say the pregnancy that time was easy, and I kept moving, and I felt fine. I will say something that I for sure don't think he intended this, but it just like bombed out my brain, and I remembered it forever. Was I made a joke at some point. I was like, well, I said I should be getting super strong because now any exercise you give me, I'm doing it plus, whatever, 35 pounds, whatever I was at the time, right? Kind of like, you gave me a 35-pound weight, but I came with my own. So now I'm doing 70. And I kind of made a joke of like, this should make me super strong. And offhand, casually, I don't think he had any idea of where it would go in my head. He was like, yeah, that's great. Until it like just, then it all turns to fat afterwards. And then that's a lot. And I was like, and I still remember it. So it landed poorly. I will say that.
Plus, it wasn't true.
It's not true. And that is not what happens. And I could go through all the metabolic physiology of why that's not true. Didn't mean it didn't land with a thud.
Yeah.
And then I remember panicking about it, thinking like, oh my God, now I'm gonna have to work out twice as hard to like just get back to just somewhat pregnant looking. I mean, tailspin, total brain tornado.
Yeah, right?
Yes, total brain tornado. But then
Which
after I had my third,
interfered, just like sidebar here, that totally interrupted your natural drive and inclination and connection and perfect system that was doing what it needed got interrupted with, oh, wait, what will my body look like and what will happen to my health? And now I'm just going to like be a mom that sits on the couch all the time breastfeeding. Like, no.
well, and it was, I mean, if you think like my words to him, and again, I don't fault him.
Yeah.
He was
Yeah.
at the time, right? I mean, it was a while ago. So like at the time, he's like a personal trainer in some shishi place in Chicago, and he's treating high-end clients, and he's like 27. I mean, he's not married. He has
Yeah.
no reason to
No
have,
clue.
but he has. So I can't really fault him for like, hey, that was devastating. Um, but it's just that like my train of thought was like, I'm gonna be so strong, ha ha ha. And even if he had said nothing more than like, yeah, I get it, it would have just like gone into the afternoon and fizzled away.
Exactly.
And he just grounded it with like, sounds like a lot of fat, right? And I was like, oh my god, which was definitely concerning. So, but then after I had my daughter, she ended up being a really long labor, turned into a C-section that was unexpected. Recovery was horrendous. Now, it probably was normal. It was probably a normal exhaustive recovery, but I was totally unprepared. It was a disaster. And I had been able to do a plank, even pregnant, maybe not for a long time, but I could do a plank. Well, what you don't realize, and what I'm sure a lot of pregnant moms don't realize, is that you aren't really as strong as maybe you once were, but baby's providing a lot of core stability simply by being in the way. They're just,
Yeah.
right? They're just
It's like if you put it, it's like putting a shim under a chair, right? It's going to see, and then you take it out and it falls.
yeah, you're like, I'm 9 months pregnant. I can still do a little bit of a plank. Check me out. It's like, never mind that it's because structurally I'm being like, yeah, totally like, there's scaffolding going on here. And I don't know that. So then I signed up for like a mommy and me exercise class, whatever. And it was great. The woman that led it was perfect for the class, the right tone. Everything was very slow, lots of body reconnection. Can you even find this part in your body again? Which half of us were like, no, we don't know.
Yeah.
It was almost all, I don't think it had to be, but I think we were all first time moms except for one lady. And so we were all in the spot together of like, I think we just got hit by a bus and nothing makes sense and we don't know what's going on. And it was a really, and maybe that may have been more meaningful than whatever fitness we did in there, because it was somebody else saying, my body's not working either, me neither. 2 weeks ago, I did some jogging. 2 weeks ago, I did a plank. I can't move today. I mean, it was just a really good mental spot for us all to be like, I'm not as broken as I thought I was because we're all feeling like this. No one in here feels amazing. Okay, great. And the lady running it was like, why would you feel amazing? I mean, think of everything that's like, I mean, that would be a weird thing to feel amazing. That would be bizarre because think of, and then she'd like walk us through and we're like, yeah, that was a lot. Yeah, no one really mentioned how much that was.
Yeah.
It was great. And I remember, one of those times I think she asked us to do a plank sort of thing and it was impossible. It was like, you just couldn't even maintain. Bizarre. And then 2 weeks later, half of us could do a partial plank. So like it was, it turned over quickly, but it was shocking. I think it just, somebody should tell everybody in the postpartum window that like,
Yeah.
hey, upside down, it's going to be crazy. And the weirder you think it is, hey, the more normal it really is.
Yeah. Trust your body.
Yeah. Like you can go back to normal. Everyone's like, I'm going to start jogging at 6 weeks. And you're like, most people at 6 weeks pretty much feel like they got hit by a bus, which by the way, is the norm. Why would you feel great at 6 weeks postpartum? That's weird.
Exactly.
So maybe it definitely made me a far better doctor. I will say that. I was far more empathetic when all of a sudden I was like, yeah, this is hard. But I would say after that, it was, because I was just one kid, when she napped, I started doing either if I couldn't like go for a run with her in the stroller because she wasn't asleep or old enough or whatever was going on. I started using fitness videos, which up until then, I pretty much mocked. We did some in college. Somebody had Buns of Steel. Yes. Remember with your foot?
Tammy Lynn, right?
Oh, I don't know. Big hair. It was either Tammy Lynn or Denise. Remember Denise?
Like 5 years ago, Tammy Lynn was still teaching here at this gym in Solana Beach.
I know there was a
Still
Denise.
teaching buns of steel.
Well, we did. We raised the teacup 1,000 times. Um, don't spill, don't spill. Raise the teacup. Remember that one? You're in like hands and knees.
Oh, I never did it. I never did it. I'm the dancer. I'm in the ballet class. I'm like, everything you're saying right now is never anything I ever did. So
Hysterical. These were hysterical. I mean, they weren't funny at the time, but they did not. They really didn't. Interestingly, if you eat lots and lots of like pizza and mac and cheese at 4 a.m, after maybe like 5 to 10 beers, and then you do that for like 4 years, but then sometimes you do buns of steel, you don't just get buns of steel. I know the math is weird.
huh,
It's,
that's funny.
it is. It is. It's weird. You would think because your butt does hurt a lot, but it doesn't actually become steel with just that. So, you know. But yeah, Denise she had like the awesome permed 80s, 90s hair. It always preceded with her walking out on a dock. We did lots of workouts where she was on a dock. That's important. When you do buns of steel, you have to be at a lake at a dock. That's maybe my other error. I was in a living room. I should have been at a lake. That would have solved it.
On the dock. That's
Yeah.
why you didn't get the buns of steel. You weren't on the dock.
Yep. And so then, but yeah, so then when my little one would sleep, I was doing like Jillian Michaels and all of a sudden I was like, oh, I understand the videos again, because sometimes you can't leave or this is it. And I did some of those. And while I would say like, do I ever want to do them again? No, I do not. They did actually serve the purpose. They gave me 30 minutes of some movement that was focused. It sort of like refocused my brain again. Kudos to them for that. When I was done with them, I was done. I'll never hopefully have to do them again. But it served its purpose, right? It was like, okay. And I will say again, professionally, when I need to talk to people about getting moving, I now feel so capable of being able to walk somebody through what kind of an environment do you need? What do you have? What are your options? Do you have equipment? Will you go somewhere? Do you want to be alone? Do you like to be in a noisy place? Do you need a quiet place? Will you try a new place? Does it have to be familiar? Do you have to be with a friend? Like, all these things matter. And what I want you to do is go a place that you will go again. Oh, I went and I'll go again, right? Or I'm never going back, but here's why. That's fine too.
Yes.
Like, if you go in and you're like, I hated it. Like, here's a place, it's near me. They're thankfully not nationwide. I won't say their name. They are nice people. But I went to one of the classes because they do have on-site babysitting. So you don't need, like when I went to Lifetime for a while.
Yeah.
It didn't matter what kid I brought there. They called me after I was there for 5 seconds. So I would.
Right. You're like, can you just hold them for 20 minutes, even if they're crying, so I can just get through this class?
Baby before I come down and take you out. Yes, Lifetime was so hard. It was like I would feed everybody snack, nurse, nap, toys, activities.
Yeah. It just wasn't worth it.
We'd get there and I'm like, he might fuss a little bit. If you just hold him, I'm going to be on this treadmill and then in this room and I will be back at this time. Precisely. I will be back here precisely. And then 2 minutes later, they'd be like, the mom of so-and-so can come down. Well, he's only fussing in this chair. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know what baby you have that just like likes to be planted and ignored. Like, that's not a thing. That's just not a thing. And so yeah, that drove me crazy. But this other place, like they didn't even need like a certain babysitting thing because like you're there the whole time. It's like you're in the workout room and the next room over is babies with some adults. They definitely did a better job of like, we'll just hold your kid while you do your workout. So like A+ for that part. But the workout, while you'd be working out, the instructor would be on her little, device. Okay, everybody, I know you're thinking about that last cookie. We're gonna burn it off. It was a big no-no, and it's okay. We're gonna take care of it. And I was like, oh no, I ate the cookie on purpose, and I'm gonna go home and eat another one. So like, I'm here to work out and feel good,
not get shamed.
I don't want to hear anything about the cookie. I mean, yeah, I ate it. I got
cookies.
And I'm not here to shame myself and burn off the guilt of eating the cookie. I'm here to move around and feel good. And then at this point I was like, and I am too old for this message. Like, and I knew the woman teaching the class, like she's a peer of mine and I don't know her well enough. Part of me wanted to be like, for the love of God, how about so we can climb some stairs, or so we can like
Yes,
make,
I know why I'm here.
even
Yeah.
just like rah rah, pump it up, everybody. Let's have a great day. That's a good enough message. That we don't that you could take that one and call it a day.
Okay,
So
that brings up another item. So you obviously are a like I'm a mover. I like fitness for me is about how it makes me feel, getting going, and very directly tied to movement, connection with other people, the team aspect. Is there anything you would say that is like your goal? And this is what I've tried to get my clients to do, to think of goals as something that you are going to work towards for your entire lifespan. Maybe it's what you want to be doing when you're 95. I get people to think of it that way. Um, do you feel like you have like one goal that you're consistently kind of holding, maybe just in yourself, or do you actually think of something?
um I think I just want to I want to be able to move well because there's so many more things you can do when you move well. Um, and like I'll even hear people say it now, which I always think is funny. We'll go do something. Actually, this has been going on for a while. I remember talking to a friend when we were 25, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, we're 25 now." And I was like, and it was like an unrelated conversation. So I was like, "Yeah, we're on the phone. Like, we're not even in person." I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "I mean, it's just that it's so close to 30." And I was like, like 5 years. Yeah. Mathematically, yes. And so then what? And he's like, well, just think about it. He's like, I mean, once we turn 30, I was like, yeah, like what? Like what happens? Like, I mean, that's it. We died. That's
Yeah, yeah, like finish the sentence. What happened?
like it's like this like, oh, the doom and gloom. And I was like kind of teasing, but also sort of like, I mean, seriously. And I will say I've had so many patients over the years that come in that give me an age. And it's just so funny because their age is just, I mean, it is totally what you make of it. Absolutely. Right. I mean, I have people that come in and they're so old and they're like 32. They are so old. They're old people. They move
Yeah,
like old people. They think like
yeah,
people. And then I have people who technically have the years to be an old person and they're out like, well, we might do a little sailing and then we're going to go on a little walk and we're going to do some hiking. And, now I'm sure for someone who comes into my office who's like 80 and really active in hiking, they're not doing the same hike that they did when they were 35 or
yes.
25, right? So, but they're still doing the thing that they can most capably do. And I would say that's my goal is like, I want you still be as capable as I possibly can, regardless of the age necessarily. I don't ever want to get to an age and be like, well, time to take a seat. Turns out I've turned 50. I have to sit. Right. It's like, I mean, if it's one of those where it's like, oh, I really wanted to do this 10-mile hike, but I'm really having knee pain. I think I'll do the 8-mile. Okay. Well, then it dictates itself, but not because I turned an age or a something. Right.
Yeah,
Um, and I just always think like, yeah, like, I mean, starting CrossFit a few years ago, at first it made me really nervous because I'd only seen like everybody else, the things on TV of like incredibly crazy fit people. And I was like, I can't do those things.
yeah,
Um, which is fine because if you go into any average gym in any average place in the US, none of those people are doing those things and we're all just working. In general, I always find it, and I drop in gyms when I'm traveling for anything else. I have always had a very positive experience, a very welcoming experience. And I do like that it could be all skill levels together because you're doing your own activity in your own spot. You just more weight, less weight. What do you want on your barbell compared to you? Like you're just doing your own thing. So you're in a very team, that big group aspect I like, but you're just doing what you can do. Or today I'm going to really push myself. I am going to be super, super top of whatever it is, or like barely slept last night. I'm just here to move around. Great. Does not matter. I am not impeding the person next to me. They're not holding me back or pushing me forward. Like we're all just doing our thing. Love that. But at 42, I finally learned how to do a pull-up. So now I'm like, wow, what could be next? Like it just,
nice.
and I just keep thinking like, I wish some of the messaging I wish that had gone out earlier, and I hope it goes out now, is that some of that stuff, and I think of this too with like the fitness test from school. Remember the presidential fitness, what have you. A lot of the time we wouldn't train for it. It would just be like, well, we did a unit of hockey, we did, 4 weeks of volleyball, we did 2 weeks of, you know, whatever else in here, basketball. And then today we're going to do the fitness test. And you were like, oh, I sucked at the mile. Oh, I sucked at the pull. It was like,
Yeah.
Looking back at it now, it's like, why didn't, and I will say, senior year of high school, I had a fantastic gym teacher. He was amazing for lots of things. Every day of the month, you ran however many minutes it was. So if it was April 1st, you ran 1 minute. Okay, great. Then we did other warm-up stuff. But by the end of the month, you were running 30 minutes in gym class simply because it was the 30th. And accidentally, we all learned how to run for 30 minutes without too much complaining because you did it every day, 1 more minute at a time. Right. And then you knew, like, sweet.
Cool.
Can't wait till next week when I get to run for 1 minute again. Right. And, and I think really like he knew what he was doing. We didn't know what he was doing. He knew that it was mental. He knew that kids could run for more than 5 minutes. They weren't going to die. And if you knew that it wasn't like being persecuted, it was just like, shoot, it's the 6th.
Yeah. The calendar's dictating it.
Yeah, darn it, it's the 15th. 15 minutes today. Like, it just was not like, oh my God, it's a really long run today. Because all of a sudden it was just like, that's what we're doing. And so we did some of that. Then he had everybody working on negatives for pull-ups. Hang on to the bar and do some negatives. And, we're going to do 5 this whole week. And then next week we're going to do 6. And it was, again, kind of like, here's what we're doing for our warm-up. So we did some of the running, we did some of the reverse pull-up things, we did some other stretchy things, and then we did the sport of the day, whatever the unit was. And then when the fitness thing came, we were totally fine running. Some of us got a pull-up that day that like never had done one before, but got some or did better on that stupid ass flex arm hang. And all of a sudden we were all like, wow, we were actually pretty good this year. And he's like, yeah, well, we've been working on it for months now. And it was like, oh yeah.
Oh, you work on it, you get better.
It turns out you can train for the fitness test and then be better. It's not like a moral test if you're a good or a bad person. Do you pass or fail? Because that's how it had been issued before.
It does feel like that a lot.
Yeah. And like, you couldn't do a pull up and they'd be like, Sergio, 0. And you'd be like, 0 again. Right.
When we did the fitness test, they actually did the skin measurements.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I remember. My calf remembers.
In front of the entire class. All right. And here comes Jeff. Everybody knows what Jeff looks like. And they pull this in and whoa! Awful, terrible, horrible.
Yes, we actually had a grade school near where I am right now. Not a school my kids go to, that the gym teacher 2 or 3 years ago, a new teacher now, she did the skin folds and she did the BMI and she posted it on the wall, everybody's name next to their BMI, which let's not forget the BMI is complete garbage. Topic for another day. Posted it so that kids could be encouraged to work on their BMI. I got numerous calls from parents who were like, will you please come talk to our school? Will you please come talk to the gym teacher and the principal? Will you talk to parents? And I was like, yes, I mean, that's not where my kids go. So like, you guys need to invite me. I would be absolutely happy to, because that is
unbelievable.
Let's just rank up how many therapy bills are coming out of that gym class right freaking now. I'm telling you that right now.
Yeah, eating disorders, just.
Yes. And so then I got put on a joint email.
And then they have a terrible relationship because that's what they think fitness is. Fitness is.
Oh my God. Fitness is being called out and being mocked and then being horrified and being shamed.
Yeah.
When you go to the gym.
And being measured by a thing that is BS.
Well, and then you think like if I go to Lifetime or any other gym, everybody there is going to watch me walk in and decide whether I belong there or not, which is wrong. I mean, that's not happening, but I fully understand, like, if everyone's welcome to fitness had been it's public shaming, you're assuming everybody at the gym is doing the same thing. Exactly. Not knowing that everybody there is actually like, oh my God, I gotta get back to work and I blah, 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 blah. Like, no, that's not happening. But of course I understand why your headspace believes it, right?
Yeah.
Which is why, it's like, well, sometimes we tell people, listen, do you want to go to a gym? You don't have to. Like, there's other things you could do.
Yes.
If you want to go to a gym, what would help you go in there? How, I don't want you just going in. There's a lot of people that go to the gym for 30 minutes a day. They don't touch anything. They go in and they wander around and go home and they're like, like,
Yeah. Yeah. What is this place? Why am I here? I don't know
I
what
don't
to
have
do.
machines work. I'm not, or they use the same two machines every single day because they learned those two. And they
Yeah.
know what the other ones are, which I fault nobody for, of course. Like, why should you just understand a weird mechanical thing that you've never used? Of course, you should get a tour or work with a trainer
Yeah.
for long enough to understand like
You
how the
want
stuff.
to give it a go.
Yeah, and the second you're like, oh, okay, I know where stuff is, and I kind of like to pick what I want to do. Okay, then you don't have to work with your trainer, but at least it got you in knowing I know how to do the things over here. Sometimes I swim. I know the locker room is over there. You know, free
So
weights
I
off.
know that you work with people in this realm. Like that is your job, that is your career, that's your vocation, it's your hobby, it's your love, it's your joy. I think those of us who get to combine all of those things are really lucky. So this might be a really easy question for you, but what if you were going to give someone advice? And I always like to think of it as like if it was a little kid. Like, here's my advice based on my experience for a lifetime of radical, authentic fitness. What would you say?
Well, I think we just have to have the conversation first of like, how are you feeling? If you're telling me like your joints hurt and you feel tired and like, do you like feeling like that? Like me? No, I abhor that feeling. I want none of that. But how do you feel about that? And if it's like, well, I'd like to be a little less tired or I'd like to do a little this, um, it's like, okay, then like we got to get the blood moving, more or less. Like, I mean, and there's plenty of people that their homework for me is I want you to walk for 30 minutes at a time, a couple times a week, put a podcast in, listen to music, go for a walk. Like, you know, I'll have people that they do follow my Instagram, patients as well. And they're like, well, I'm not doing any of that. It's like, that's okay. Like, that's what I like to do. You can never do any of those things. And we can find, like, also what I didn't know, younger me, is that like, you could just do rock climbing and get fit. You could just do kayaking if that's near you. Like, you don't actually have to follow fitness rules to get fit. You could just go have a lot of fun outside. And then by default, it made you stronger and more resilient and you have better balance. Like, you don't have to follow a bunch of rules, which is so great. And I will say, like, that's one of those things that I am constantly, I mean, I'm obnoxious about it. I will flat out say, if I hear verbiage in the gym, if I hear verbiage on the street, somewhat in a conversation with, and I can say somewhat because like if I'm not even really in the conversation, you might still be interrupted by me. And like, even so, one of my good friends, we're in the gym the other day and she's newer to the gym and we're laughing because the coach is like, hey, it's a bunch of like lower body stuff today, but everybody wants a big booty. And so whatever, we giggle. This is my bootylicious story, right?
Okay.
So we're like, haha, booty. So, because, we're all 46, 50, 35 going on preteen. Booty's fun. And so whatever, he reads off, this is what we're doing today. And so my one friend, she's like, are you kidding? She's like, who wants a bigger booty? I've been trying to get mine smaller forever. And we were like, what planet are you on? We're like, big booties are in. We're done with booty. That's your muscle. That's your go. You want to jump. You want to squat. You want to sit. You want to hop up on something. You want to run up the stairs. Like, that is booty.
Power supply.
Yes. And she's like, yeah, but I mean, really, who wants a bigger booty? And so the room is like, hello, everybody. And so we're like, where have you been? So we then spent the rest of the day barraging her with booty videos of all kinds. I'm going to send you one that is just my favorite. So much booty. And I was laughing. I was like, here's the thing. I said, this is what I love about what has changed over time. I'm telling her and other people this. I'm like, this is what I love that's changed. Like, yes, well, you and I were in high school, smaller butt, smaller everything. Just for the love of God, girls, get smaller. Like, if you could just
just whittle away to nothing, please.
Nothing, making noise and taking up space and just stop being. That would be so great. Which is really the message that I always tell people it sends. Smaller why? Like, what is smaller getting you? Like, so are you actually feeling better and your joints feel better and you have better energy and your health markers are better because you got smaller in a specific way? Maybe. Is everything great and your health markers are fantastic and all of your blood values are great and your energy and your focus is good and your sleep is good, but you want to get smaller? Like, why? Like, what will it give you? What really will it give you? Right. And so, sort of like to hear that verbiage coming out. And I was like, I know where she gets it because she grew up in the same time windows that I did. But
Yeah.
oh my God, you're back there. I was like, we are 25 years ahead of that.
We
Which
are.
but I was like, we got to whip her into the future, like right now. So we send her all these booty videos and we're like, and I said,
It's like an intervention.
it was the booty intervention. So then out of nowhere, I asked my freshman daughter, my high school freshman, and I'm just like, pop quiz, big booties in or out? She's like, in. I'm like, thank you. Then my niece, who's a junior in high school, like she stopped over for my son's birthday. So before she even comes in the door, I'm like, pop quiz, big booties, in or out? She's like, big juicy booty, who doesn't want one? I'm like, thank you. So I was like, listen, I have panned who knows what's what, which is obviously high school girls. I'm telling you, big booties are in. And so, we're still joking, but I was like, yes, there's like the obvious, like extreme people that are putting in like the fake butt things. And I'm like, it's funny because obviously that goes far off the other deep end. I said, but the point is that like working on your body to be its best should give you a booty and it's functional. And I said, so I'm like, I'm teasing, but also like, yeah, you want a bigger booty. And so then she had to deal with 2,000 booty videos. And then today at the gym, they played a nice booty song to round it out. And again, like it just brings in like, we're here having a good time. I hope you feel better about your body because the way you were thinking of it wasn't really in a way that was helpful. You weren't saying I want a smaller booty because I'm hurting, I'm having problems. My doctor said I have cardiac issues. Like you are only saying that because you learned at age 12 it's supposed to be smaller. And boy, if I can rip the Band-Aid off that, I will as fast as I can. Yeah. And the other population that I like to harass endlessly is like our parents' generation, where again, those women are like, they're still talking about toning and they're still talking about dieting and
fat free.
I am ruthless
fat
with that.
Free, fat free. Yep. I know people who still eat fat free, and most of them are in their 70s, and I'm just like, your brain is shrinking literally with every fat free thing you put in your body.
That's when I hear, and again, like I am ruthless. I will not even say that I'm super polite. When I hear someone say like, oh, I'm having this being so bad, I have really got to be better. I'm like, oh my God, did you steal something? Did you kill someone? Oh my God, what did you do? Vandalism? And I just start listing off all sorts of crimes. And they're like, no. I've just had so many muffins. I'm like, oh.
That's it? Muffins? Muffins.
God-forsaken muffins.
Muffins don't make you bad.
I was like, listen, I was about to call my friend who's a cop to see if we could somehow like get you off scot-free because it sounded so bad. But now that I know that it's muffins, and hopefully it brings a little levity to the whole like,
yeah,
seriously, this is not like, this is it. I mean, you donated, you worked over here today, you went out and you helped out this people, you drove your friends around town that like have a bad ankle or had surgery, and like you were just such a lovely giving person all day. You're bad because you ate a muffin. Like this is what's going to take you out. I will not stand for it. So
I love that about you. Thank you so much for chatting with me and sharing your story. You're not please don't ever halt your opinionated self. That's really needed in the world. And sharing your story and your journey and some really rock solid advice too. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me. I also love what you do because you're a real person. And I think the best messaging that we can send out, like obviously there's a lot of negatives to social media and on and on and on.
Yes.
But there's some good stuff out there. And I tell people all the time, if you are following for fitness information, nutritional information, some fitspo of some sort, because you want to, you're learning or you do want to stay motivated. I said, that's totally fine. I said, but the second you open a page and it makes you feel bad about yourself or not good enough, unfollow. And then the ones follow that you're like, oh, he or she's always kind of funny, or they do the little list. I said, then you follow more. It doesn't mean you have to follow all the advice they give, but if they just like, there's a few pages I follow that I don't actually follow any of their workouts because I have my own stuff. But,
Yeah.
like I love their personality. I love the way they make a little video. I love their messaging. So I keep
Yeah.
watching. And it's like, and then the one that pops up that, tells me not to eat the cookie. I'm like,
Bye-bye.
it doesn't have to be bad. It just has to be like, what's going to make you laugh a little bit? You should go back to fitness because it's fun, fun, fun. You aren't
And that is the best advice.
you have to go find something else if it's not fun. If you didn't like what you did today, it's okay. There's 2 billion other things.
Thank you for that. That's the best. And if you guys are watching and you want to follow Gina on Instagram, right?
Yep. Come and find me at Women's Health Series.
Women's Health Series. And
It started out as a class, but now I just like to I give all kinds of things out there.
yep. And the Big Hat Series, you got to look for that.
So I have to go get my big hat back. Here's the funny thing is I got them as a joke. My sister legit wore one to some like afternoon thing.
Yes.
Looked amazing. She looked terrific. And I was like, this is hysterical because that hat, it's Wellness Maven. That's who she is. Wellness Maven. She got really busy over the summer with all these people around. Wellness Maven needs to come back for sure.
Love her. Thanks, Gina.
All right. Have a great day.